I'm Matty J, CPA, and today we're talking about the most exciting topic on the internet, Social Security, specifically working while collecting Social Security. Now, the formulas and calculations can get pretty complicated as you're looking them up. So we're going to run through that today with a case study so that hopefully it can help you as you're determining whether or not it makes sense to take Social Security and what effect working would have. Okay, so whenever you're trying to answer this question, what you do is you have to look at the annual earnings test. What the annual earnings test says is if you are before your full retirement age and you're working, you can't make more than $22,320 without the Social Security office taking some of that back. Now that's the limit for 2024. That changes every year. But what happens above $22,320 is they will deduct $1 for every $2 that you go over that limit. Now, in the year that you hit full retirement age, in the calendar year you hit full retirement age, they will now deduct $1 for every $3 that you go over that limit of $59,520. Now, once you hit full retirement age, it does not matter how much you make. You can make 7 figures and you can still collect all of your Social Security. Okay, so in the month you hit your full retirement age, it does not matter how much you make. One big thing to note is if Social Security takes away your benefits because you worked and made too much when you were before your full retirement age, they will give it back to you in the form of higher monthly payments once you hit your full retirement age. And we'll see that with the case study we're about to go through with Annie. All right, so this is Annie, and as you can see, she's got balloons in her hands. She's celebrating because she just retired early at 62, and she's ecstatic. But after a couple of weeks of being retired, Annie thinks to herself, man, dealing with my boss all day was sure as heck a lot easier than dealing with my husband Frank all day. I'm going to go back to work. So Annie goes right back to work. She had started Social Security though, so she's going to stay on Social Security. So we're going to figure out what does that mean, okay? So here's the calculation. To figure out if she's going to be penalized, we need to take what she's going to make, and we need to subtract out that $22,320 number and then divide it by 2. Because if you remember, anything over $22,320 gets deducted $1 for every $2 that go over, okay? So in this case, we're going to say Annie makes $40,000 a year. Now, after you subtract out the $22,320 and then you divide by 2, you're left with a penalty of $8,840. Now, what does this actually look like for Annie on a monthly basis? Let's take a look, but first some assumptions. So we're going to assume that Annie has a full retirement age benefit of $3,000, okay, and her full retirement age is 67. Her salary is $40,000, her earnings limit is $22,320, and the earnings penalty is $88.40. Okay, now if she were not working and she started Social Security at 62, this is what it would look like. So she gets a monthly benefit of $2,100 and annualized that's $25,200. And you can see that every single year it just stays the same, right? Now, obviously, there are COLA adjustments that will happen, inflation increases. We're just looking in today's dollars. So what changes? Okay, so because she is working, how does that change? Well, you can see her monthly benefit's going to stay the same, so the $2,100, but annually is going to be reduced by that $8,840. So we're at $16,360, okay? Now, one thing to note here, remember I said at full retirement age, they will add back everything they've taken away. They're not going to give it in a lump sum. They're essentially going to take your life expectancy and pay it out over the rest of your life, okay? Life expectancy. So you start, you're annually getting $16,360, and then once you hit full retirement age, they're going to bump up the monthly to $2,350 so that you're getting $28,200 annually. Because once you hit full retirement age, you're not being penalized anymore. Now, how it actually looks from a month-to-month standpoint is Social Security will not pay, basically you tell Social Security how much you expect to make. They're not going to pay those first 4 checks. And in all reality, they're not going to pay the first 5. They're not going to pay May right away. They'll start in June, and then at the end of the taxable year, they'll determine, okay, exactly how much did you make, and then they'll pay you the partial payment for May. Now, 2 very important notes here. Number 1, you have to make sure you stay on top of how much you expect to make in a given year. And you have to make sure that you let Social Security know of any changes to your anticipated earnings. Social Security has story after story of people who they weren't going to make over the annual earnings limit, but then they did, and Social Security doesn't stop paying the checks. And so you think, ooh, got it under their nose, right? All right, got it under the table. We're good. But you're not good. Social Security will always find you, okay? And what they'll do is they'll send you a notice of overpayment, and then you have to pay back a lump sum to Social Security because you weren't supposed to have received the benefits. All right, important note number 2. Let's say you want to collect Social Security at 62, but you don't turn 62 until June. And from January until June, you made way more than $22,320. Well, Social Security has something called the Special Earnings Limit Rule. And what that does is it allows you to consider, are you retired or working on a monthly basis? So going forward in that year, starting in June, Social Security will look at, in June, did you make more than 1860? And if not, then you're good. You're considered retired, right? They'll only do that for that first year. That next year, it reverts back to the annual earnings test, and you have to stay under that 22,320, which will have been adjusted a little bit for inflation. But that's called the Special Earnings Limit Rule. And so that's the second thing to be aware of. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.